Good. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you for making time to attend this session today. I am Professor Robert Carlyle.
Mr. Norbeck.
And so welcome. Yes, so just some notes. This event will be recorded. The recording will be made available after the event. And to ask a question, please use the Q&A function. And you can use that function at any time as we progress. And at the end of the session, I will visit the Q&A function box and we can work through the questions that you have. Okay, so let's get started. And so what we're going to do today is talk through the course. We'll do some introductions to myself and Christian first, and then we'll talk about what type of students typically attend the course. We'll talk about what you will learn. We'll talk about how the course is structured and how all the different modules of the course fit together and how they are delivered. And then we'll talk about your assessment, so how we judge your progress through the course. And then we'll talk about some of the other benefits that you will have as a Oxford University student, and with some particular information on the college system, which may be a bit unusual and need a bit more explanation for some folks. Okay, so that's how we'll go through things. And to start with is an introduction. So I'm Bob Carlyle. I'm the course director of the MSc in Nanotechnology for Medicine and Healthcare. I have about 25 years of experience in translational research, so taking nanotechnology-based innovations right from concept through testing in the lab, testing in animal research, through into patients and through into clinical trials. So that full spectrum of research. I have a certain number of publications, and I lead Module 6. In addition to being the director of the course, I lead Module 6, which is clinical translation and commercialization of nanomedicine.
Hello, I'm Christiana Norbeck. I'm the course director for the PG Cert in Nanotechnology, which is basically the first year of the Masters. And I'm the deputy course director for the MSc. My background is in material science and surface science. So I've worked in that area for many years, and from there I became interested in nanoscience and nanotechnology, looking at structures at the nanoscale. I lead modules 1 to 5, and we'll talk about the modules in a bit more detail in a moment.
Okay, good. So I hope that establishes who we are. And now let's talk about who you might be. So who are these courses designed for? Well, there's a huge range of people, in fact. So we take scientists and engineers working in the commercial research or healthcare sectors who are interested in how to use or how to develop nanotechnology. And that covers a huge range of people. It might be medical practitioners. So typically we have 1 or 2 trained medics in each of our cohorts, and they're thinking about how they might employ nanotechnology in their particular field of medicine. We have project managers in related industries, patent agents, legislators in the field of nanotechnology and nanomedicine. So in that situation, it's people who are trying to get the most up-to-date information so that they can do their jobs as effectively as possible. So you can imagine a legislator or a regulator needs to know about all the recent developments in order to know how to regulate them effectively. And similarly with a patent agent, they need something, a kind of similar level of up-to-date information. Other examples would be newly graduated students who are looking to study whilst working before they do their PhD. So they may have some experience in a particular field of engineering or maths or biology, and they're looking to refine down into nanotechnology, and that will then give them some guidance and some experience which they can then take into a PhD application. The key here is that the course is designed for working with a large range of people in different roles. So working professionals from around the world who have obviously lots of professional commitments to work around. And so they're people who need to be able to balance their professional commitments with their ability to study. And so we provide a form of delivery and a flexibility that allows people to do that. This is a nice picture captured, which I guess just emphasizes some of the variety of backgrounds that we have. In this one shot, we have somebody who owns a drug formulation company. We have a student of mechanical engineering looking to get into more biological aspects. We have somebody who works in an ultrasound company, and then two representatives of a pharmaceutical company. And we have people from the UK, from India, from Italy, and South Korea within that one photo. So this just goes to show the kind of diversity we have, and that diversity it just brings a really interesting mix of different backgrounds and perspectives and experiences. And so there is a great deal of peer-to-peer learning and networking that is available through the course as well as a consequence. So this is just a list of some of the backgrounds that we typically have: dentistry, medical doctors, recent graduates, consultancies, medical device and diagnostics company employees, computer scientists, pharmacists, people from biotech, regulators, patent and investors, entrepreneurs, and then even lecturers and academics from different institutions. So a huge range, which makes for a really interesting mix of people. Okay, we're now going to the overviews of the programs and how they're delivered and how they're laid out. So I'll hand over to Christiane to discuss the PG Cert in nanotechnology.
Okay, so first let's look at the PG Cert in nanotechnology. This course is for over 10 months, so entirely an academic year. It's a part-time course, and it is largely online with the exception of one weekend at the end in July when everybody comes together to Oxford. So the PG Cert really is for those looking for a solid foundation in nanotechnology whilst they may be working full-time. So most of our student cohort is working full-time. They're based all over the world. And so for the first year, they are able to study online whilst they continue with their day job. I think later on we talk a bit more in detail about the structure of the course, about the different modules. So as I said, the PG Cert is taught online with one residential weekend in Oxford, and we use Moodle as our study platform. And once a week we meet online for a tutorial, and for that we use Teams.
Okay, and moving on to the MSc in nanotechnology for medicine and healthcare. So this can be studied over 2 to 4 years, and I mentioned flexibility being key to being able to provide a course that is suitable for people with lots of work commitments. And this is why it says 2 to 4 years. So ideally, in an ideal scenario, a student would take 2 years to complete the course, and they would do everything in sequence, and everything would align nicely with when they can study. If that's not the case, we have scope for some flexibility. The course is designed to enhance the ability of nanotechnology researchers to take their healthcare technologies from concept to clinical use. So we're thinking very much about how we deliver the information and what information we deliver to aid you on a journey that will take you from concept to clinical use. We have 3 modules delivered online, and those are essentially the 3 modules that constitute the PG Cert that Christiane has just introduced and will give some more detail on in the next few slides. There will then be 3 modules delivered face-to-face in Oxford. And those 3 modules delivered face-to-face in Oxford are comprised of a week of lectures where you come together with your cohort and in a very nice interactive process where you have lectures with the lecturer and lots of interaction with your cohort and the lecturer, but quite intense weeks of delivery with lots of information. As has been pointed out, it's a part-time course and it's designed to be flexible so that people can do this while they are working. Okay, so in terms of what you will learn, those 3 PG Cert modules, which are the online component, the first of which covers the wider context of nanotechnology, the second, the fundamental science of nanotechnology. So that's the fundamental science of what's happening at the nanoscale. And then the third of those is the fundamental characterization of nanotechnology. So that's how we characterize nanoscale materials, what kind of equipment, what kind of techniques we use. And that comprises the PG Cert. So you can, if you wish, take the PG Cert, and that can be the sum total of your interaction with this course. Now, if you wish, and if you have the requisite grades and experience, you can choose to actually, in addition to those 3 modules, do 3 modules, which would then comprise the MSc, once you also add the dissertation. So the MSc takes those first 3 PG Cert modules and adds on an introduction to nanotechnology, which is where we talk about the basic concepts. And then we talk about nanomedicine science and application in the next module. And that's where we start to talk about how we take nanoconstructs and how we apply them in healthcare contexts. And then the final module of the MSc is the clinical translation and commercialization of nanomedicine. And that's how we talk about all the considerations you need to take a concept you have through all the processes, all the scientific challenges, all the regulatory challenges, all the marketing challenges, all the business challenges, to ensure that you can actually turn that concept into a product that might impact on the world. So the PG Cert modules, plus these 3 modules, Introduction to Nanotechnology, Nanomedicine, and Clinical Translation, in addition to your research project dissertation, makes up the MSc. And this dissertation is typically a period of 3 months spent in a lab somewhere, or in an intense period of literature-based study, with a submission in September. And I'm saying typically, of course, because there is flexibility. Now, that MSc research project and dissertation, although the most intense part of the work it takes place in the kind of final 3 months, there is a lot of build-up where the project is defined and all the literature and background reading and writing is done. So actually the dissertation project is typically done in the 2nd year of your study on the MSc course. So it's a full year of study on that dissertation project, with the most intense part of the project towards the end of that 2nd year. And in terms of when you will be expected to commit to the course and when the modules run, this is outlined in this slide here. You can see between October and December, we deliver the first module, which is the wider context of nanotechnology. Between January and March, the fundamental science of nanotechnology. Between April and July, the fundamental characterization of nanotechnology, with the weekend in the characterization suite in Oxford here as the last component of that 3rd module taking place at the start of July. And then for the final 3 modules, so 4, 5, and 6, Introduction to Nanotechnology takes place in October, Nanomedicine, Science and Applications in March, and Clinical Translation and Commercialization of Nanomedicine takes place in July. So typically these first 3 modules you will complete in year 1, and then as year 2 begins in October, you will take module 4. In the following March, you will take module 5, and the following July, you will take clinical translation and commercialization. In the ideal scenario, as I mentioned, there is flexibility. And during this second year here, October through, in fact, to September, you would also be doing your dissertation. So it's 3 online modules taken from anywhere in the world with tutors who provide online support and electronically replicate the famed Oxford tutorial system. So that's a system of learning which has served us well for hundreds of years, where you have really good contact with your tutors, and it's an interactive session where you get to discuss the important topics in a really detailed and insightful way. And then the in-person modules, which are modules 4, 5, and 6, offer a different experience, but an equally rewarding and educating one. And that's where you have these intense focused lectures from Oxford academics from a range of disciplines within the field. So 2 different means of delivery, giving you 2 different exposures to really nice learning environments and learning experiences. In terms of how we assess your progress and your final grade, what we're looking for obviously is successful completion of either 3 if you're doing the PG Cert, or 6 taught modules if you're doing the MSc. And for modules 1 to 3, we would expect most students to need at least 15 to 20 hours a week of self-study to cover the huge amount of content that they have, plus that 1-hour online tutorial. There's a portfolio of assignments, which are essays, reports, problem sheets, scientific posters, and presentations. Module 1 is 2,500 words, modules 2 and 3, 6,000 words in each, and modules 4 and 5, essays and posters totaling 4,000 words. And module 6 is a 4,000 word essay. So we're really keen to give you different experiences of assessment, and not just producing lots of essays, but thinking about different ways we communicate science in an accurate, accessible, and insightful way. So we've designed a range of different assessment processes as described there. And then, of course, at the final part of the assessment is the research dissertation, which is up to 15,000 words of original research. And that may be lab-based research, where you have performed some studies either in your own labs or labs here in Oxford, if that can be arranged, or it might be literature-based study or survey-based study, if you don't have the ability or the time to come and do studies within labs, or don't have the inclination to do wet lab study if you're more interested in paper-based study. Again, flexibility is the key there. As long as the topic is novel and interesting and relevant, then we can design a dissertation project around it. In terms of the entry requirements we require, we're looking for first class or strong upper second class undergraduate degrees with honours in either science or engineering discipline, or a medical degree. Some kind of demonstrated aptitude for maths, so calculus in particular, and physics is definitely very important, and that's because of the level of content and difficulty of the module 2 of the PG Cert, which is the one that deals with the maths and physics at the nanoscale. So we need maths and physics modules at university, or at least A-level equivalent. And then we need, obviously, an evidenced demonstration of an interest in nanotechnology. So what is it about the field that really excites you? What evidence is there in your history or your current study or employment that shows that you have this interest in nanotechnology? and then some evidence of the motivation and ability to complete the course. As I said, there's a big commitment required. We need you to be able to commit to 15 to 20 hours during the online modules over several weeks. And during the face-to-face modules, we need you to be able to commit to coming to Oxford the week to spend with your cohort in the lectures. So being motivated to make that commitment and having the ability to make that commitment is very important. And then, of course, because the course is delivered in English and all the assessments are performed in English, we need to be assured that you have proficiency in English. And we look for that at the university's higher level, which is the IELTS 7.5. In terms of the process for application and the deadlines that you need to be aware of, I'm pleased to say that applications for 2026 entry are now open, and we've already started to receive those applications. The deadlines are for the PG Cert on the 14th of November, and for the MSc, Wednesday, the 28th of January, 2026. Now, that's the latest deadline for most Oxford scholarships. So obviously, the earlier you can apply, the better. And then there's also the potential for further deadlines up to Tuesday, the 3rd of March. Now, applications may remain open depending on how many applicants we've had and interviewed and offered places to. So then there may be the potential, but it's really important to note that if you're keen on this course, the sooner you apply, the better. That gives us more time to try and align you with potential scholarships. And it also means that we have a better chance of assigning you a college place, which are not guaranteed the later and later we go into the year. So really being proactive and getting your applications in early will make the process a lot easier for you and will give you a better chance of a good outcome. Worth mentioning that although this course is run through Conted, it's important to note that there's a host of associations and organizations and departments within the university that are interlinked with the course. So I myself am based within the Institute of Biomedical Engineering, which is part of the Engineering Sciences department. Begbrook Science Park helps with the delivery, and that is the site of the characterization weekend. And there's other departments in the Mathematical, Physical and Life Sciences, the MPLS as we call it, division, and Medical Science division, which have interaction with the course in terms of lectures delivered by people from those departments and potentially projects, dissertation projects supervised from people within those departments. Now, you may not know, if you're not familiar with Oxford or Cambridge, you may not know too much about the college system, but so it's probably just worth touching on this. It can seem a bit hard to understand and a bit unusual. So just to give some clarity, so on the MSc, you will be what we call a matriculated postgraduate student. And that means that you'll become a member of one of the university's famous interdisciplinary colleges. So college is really like a home from home whilst you're in Oxford. They will help you, provided you apply early enough. They will try and help you with things like accommodation. You will have access to dining halls, great places to meet other students, both from your course and from other courses. That's why the interdisciplinary word is there. These colleges have experts with a huge amount of experience from across a huge number of different fields, and it's a really nice melting pot of ideas and experiences where you get to interact with people who just love thinking about things in great detail. So as a MSc student, you would have access to all that. So you can encounter new perspectives in your own field and learn more about many other different subjects. Now, as a student on the postgraduate certificate, you'll be eligible for the following, which is University Card, Bodleian Libraries Access, which is a huge source of information. Just a mind-boggling amount of literature that you can have access to. And then an award ceremony at the Sheldonian Theatre. It's just a nice quote. Now, obviously, we've got loads of these. There's more on our website, but this is just a nice one pulled out from Jamie, who completed his time on the course last year and is currently studying for a PhD in my group. So he started on the MSc, and he just emphasizing that the great interdisciplinary nature, and enjoyed the group discussions or projects, and it helped him think about things from different angles, and how he can apply nanotechnology. How he's enjoyed the Oxford ecosystem, and really the course and the lectures and the way it was delivered has really helped him push on in his career. And as I say, there's some other case studies on our websites from people with different backgrounds and different experience, but have also thoroughly benefited from the course. If you seek more information, these are good websites to go to. So the lifelong learning .ox.ac/nano. And if you need to contact anybody with questions, the nano@content.ox.ac.uk are good links for you. And there's a QR code here as well, which will link to more information. Okay, so that's quite a lot from me. I hope I've managed to cover the course and its structure and how it's delivered in enough detail. But I'm sure there might be some things that I've missed or require more clarity. So if you have any questions, then please add them to the Q&A box, and Christian and I will do our best to work through those questions.
Whilst you're still thinking about your question, another comment. As Bob said, please visit our website where you can find more information about the individual modules. And we also like to point out that all our modules are available as standalone modules, which means if you don't want to commit to the MSc immediately, perhaps you would like to take one module first as a taster, either for credit or without credit, then please apply for individual modules. So all our modules can be taken as what we call standalone modules. And if you fulfill the application criteria and want to take a module for credit, then you could later on import those credits into the PG Cert or the MSc if you're taking the MSc later. So many of our MSc students have come in through that route. They took a module as a taster, usually the module that is closest to their profession and their interests. And then they enjoy the experience so much that they later on apply for the MSc. Okay, so over to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that process of going from a standalone student and trying a module, again, can be arranged quite simply by contacting the admin team and working through the application process as a standalone student. Okay, excellent. So the questions are starting to come through now. So we have Hamad asking, hello, thank you for the time for this webinar. I'm inquiring about don't meet the eligibility requirements such as the IELTS 7.4 score. Will that affect acceptance? Hello, Hamad. Yes, I'm afraid it will. So obviously, by the time you apply, you will need an IELTS score of 7.5. So whether that means you're taking some English courses and improving the standard of your written and oral and your understanding of English, spoken English, then you can certainly try that. We can potentially make exceptions if you have a history of education in an English speaking university on an English speaking course, but we would need more details on that. Okay, so then we have Mazhar asking, thank you. What criteria do you typically look for in clinicians transitioning from standalone modules to the degree track? So yes, I think when we set this course up, we didn't really think of clinicians being one of our target audiences. It only happened really as we started to recruit students, and we noticed that clinicians seem to be very interested. And it kind of makes sense because they're always interested in pushing the boundaries and working out how to apply new technology. They're always interested in how they can improve things for their patients. So typically we do get 1 or 2 clinicians a year. And I think they are well suited to this because clinicians are obviously very used to having to juggle lots of commitments at the same time and learn as well as do a high workload, high stress job. So they actually tend to do pretty well on the course. So what criteria do we look at? I mean, we're looking at what kind of interests you have, your specialty, what kind of ways you are thinking of applying nanotechnology. And we can sort through those kind of details in discussions at interview. Or if you join us for a standalone module, we can discuss then. I don't think there's any particular criteria. We're just looking for your interest in the field and your thoughts about applying nanotechnology for the benefit of your particular patients.
So the standard application criteria that we talked about earlier, that were on the earlier slides. So yeah, even someone who attended the standalone module first and then applies for the MSc later, they need to fulfill the application criteria. And especially for clinicians, so people generally coming in with a biology background or medicine background, they would somehow have to demonstrate their aptitude towards maths and physics, because that is needed for especially the nanoscience module. So whether you have A-levels or A-level equivalent in maths and physics, or you might have taken modules at university. So this is really what we need to know.
Yeah. So good demonstration of an understanding of maths or physics, and a good demonstration of education in maths and physics is a kind of platform, a basis that everybody needs for the course. Okay. So my question is, sorry, this is from, I apologize if I don't get the pronunciation correct here. Ifan Nichuku. Is there a direct study package, like a 5-year MS PhD program? I'm not quite sure what you mean there.
You might be asking about a direct path from the MSc to the PhD, to a PhD,
Right.
which we do not have for this course. But having said that, some of our MSc students, after successful completion of the MSc, have successfully applied for a PhD study. So that happens every year that, our best students, they apply for separate PhDs, usually a PhD by research, and then they continue. Some might even continue with the project that is kind of related to their MSc project, but there's no package as such.
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Christian. So I think Christian's captured that very nicely. Okay. What stage of idea development is appropriate before attending in-person module 5? Should I arrive with a defined research question? No, I think certainly you can if you have a clear. Sorry, this is Mazar's question. So clearly you can arrive with a nice concept and a really clear idea of what you're interested in, and then the content you get on module 5 will help you with the feasibility of that idea and the novelty of that idea, and whether you have got that idea aligned with the actual fundamentals of application of nanotechnology in science and medicine. Or you can arrive absolutely as a blank page and just as a sponge for all the information that you want to get out of the week. And then you might leave with some new ideas and some new directions. So it can be used in either way. It can be used to refine the ideas you already have and check their feasibility and novelty, or it can be used as a way of sparking new ideas and new interests.
And again, have a look at our website, which gives a bit more detail about the content of the course. So module 5, the nanomedicine module, really gives a flavor of the different areas where of nanomedicine applications, because the applications are wide ranging, they are huge. So you really get the flavor with lectures from specialists in different areas. So a very good overview. And if you already come in with a very specific idea, with experience, then it's an opportunity for you to network with lecturers, with speakers, and with the other course participants, discuss your ideas. But equally, if you come in with a background in, for example, general medicine or biology, and you're just interested in the applications of nanomedicine and you don't have any idea yet, then it's a really nice experience because you get exposed to the different applications. So either way, it will work.
Yes, very good. Yeah. Okay, so is there any sort of guarantee in the admission process, as Oxford seems to be very competitive? Yes, Oxford is very competitive, absolutely. And that's probably why it often features as one of the best or not the best universities in the world when the universities are ranked against each other. And that means we can't really give any guarantees in the admission process. All we can do is guarantee to give every application a really thorough and robust assessment, and everybody who meets our admissions criteria a fair assessment. So that's what we can guarantee. We obviously can't guarantee anybody will get a place until we have assessed their application and interviewed them. But we can guarantee that process will be robust and fair. Okay, so the next question is, where are the research ideas provided at the Oxford University? Do I need to choose a research area when applying? No, I think, again, flexibility is the key. So you don't need to choose a research area. It depends on what your background is and whether you're just coming to the field, you're moving into the field from a different or related area, and you may still be looking for ideas. And in that case, actually, the content delivery during the first year might help define what you're interested in studying during your dissertation in the second or third year. So it may not be till you arrive on the course that you get a really good idea of what you're interested in specifically. The alternate, of course, is that you may have a really strong idea. So you might be working in a company on a particular project. Let's just pick one. So say you're using nanotechnology to develop a diagnostic, and then you want to use that as your dissertation project. So you have a clear idea that you're interested in nanodiagnostics and you're interested in ways of doing that more effectively. So you may come to us with a quite well-defined idea about what you want to do and how you want to do it. It's all about flexibility, and we can support either approaches. So we can support people that just know they are interested in nanotechnology and specifically drug delivery. And that's what they're coming to the course for. And then over the course of the first year, they might then refine that down into something a bit more solid. Or they may come to us with a really clear idea, and then we can support that as well. So flexibility is the key. Okay. So that looks okay, thank you. If there is no guarantee, I would humbly write to email for PhD by research. Yes, similarly, there's no guarantee for a PhD either. Okay, so yes, and PhDs are just as, perhaps even more competitive than attaining a place on an MSc course. So there's no way around it, I'm afraid. It will be a competitive experience. And you just have to put your best case forward and obviously check that you meet the criteria and try and perform as well as you can at interview if you get the opportunity.
I think coming back to the question about the research proposal, how defined it has to be, because I know during the application process, we asked for an outline proposal, but that does not have to be sort of fully developed. What we are really interested in is what you are interested in, and that can be very specific if you have already a very specific idea, or it can be very broad. It's basically for us to get to know you better, to know what you are interested in. And then this is also something we can discuss at that interview.
Yeah. So it's just for us to get a sense of how you think about nanotechnology and some of the concepts and technologies that you might have come across in your reading and how they align with your interests. It doesn't have to be a fully developed research proposal with a Gantt chart and specific research questions. It can be if you're in that place already, but it doesn't have to be. There's flexibility there. And what do you state as your research proposal or question at the point of interview, application and interview isn't necessarily what you then have to go on and do your dissertation in. There's a full year during which you can change or refine your plans. It's just for us to get an idea about how you think about science and how you convey your thoughts and interests. Okay. Yes, so if you have any further questions, feel free to contact the team and they will do a fantastic job, as they always do, of helping you out. Okay.
Thanks, everyone. I
Thanks,
hope you
bye-bye.
enjoyed the session.
Take care. Bye-bye.